Skips. Russian trolls.
I'm also
Meeting, all rise for the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd as written. Second. All in favor? Payroll and AP is done. ADA update, as everybody can see, the counter's done. We have this door remaining. The grab bars are done. Cobb's supposed to come back for the door. Grab bars are done. Oh, the covering from underneath the sink and I think the spoons are done for the faucet. Rich Holden's been over at the community center bathrooms the last 2 days. I didn't get an update on that.
He's just waiting on some handles.
Oh,
That's
perfect.
where, yeah.
So that's moving along pretty
We should have
good.
that done next week, he said, so.
Sweet. And that'll be the last 88. Because the roof's done, paving is coming when it doesn't rain, and that'll do the handicap parking spots and lane over there.
Mhm.
Sweet. All right. Oh, all right. We had an interview with a public works applicant yesterday at 1. So I will make the motion to hire that applicant starting tomorrow.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor? It's official, if you can let him know. Thank you, Cliff. Since we're on the topic of public works, in the warrant, there is Article 18 that is asking to expend up to 120K for a roll-off truck, so that the town could haul our own trash. Late last week, we got an estimate, or we were notified that there's a brand new truck. What is it, Western Star?
Yes, sir.
That was ordered and they didn't pick it up for $250. So I would like to make the motion, so everybody knows the warrant was already signed and sent out for print. But a week too late that we were notified about the new truck. So I want to put an article on the ballot, which the absentee ballots are supposed to be available Thursday, the 8th, for a 5-year deal on the new truck. So there will be a article on the ballot if the motion passes to place it on the ballot. We're not trying to pull anything slick. We were just notified a week too late on the new truck. We can't change the warrant. It was already signed and went to print, and it's harder to do a supplemental article to the current warrant than it is to just put it on the ballot. So we'll have the regular election boxes, and then there would be an article at the end. So I will make that motion to do just that, add it to the ballot.
Is that for the full 250?
No, it's broke down. Down payment will be 65, with the initial 65 coming out of the transfer station reserve account with payments of 37, 38, and 43 respectively for payoff. There is no $1 buyout. Like with the deal we do with usually a 5-year deal with the fire trucks. This one here is just straight. Cost on the truck was $225,025.37. And with the discount for the municipal federal tax, whatever on it, with an interest of 5.14. So yeah, so our net would be after the 65,000 out of the transfer station reserve, it'd be 160,2537. And we would divide those equally amongst the 3 years. So instead of a 5-year deal, it'd be a 4-year deal.
So there's no buyouts at the end.
No, it's that last payment. It's all done. All finished.
The total cost is $225 for the truck.
Yes. Yeah. So I will make that motion. Place it on the ballot. Any discussion? Sorry, second.
Sorry, second.
Yes. So, all in favor? Perfect. All right, so if you
That was two.
on the ballot, and verify the verbiage,
Okay,
if we can, on the article.
Can you clarify? Because I thought he did.
Because the initial 65.
Did you vote for that?
No.
Okay.
So the initial 65 come out of transfer station reserve. If we can put the table in for the yearly payment for the 160, 37, 160.25. So that everybody can see what the breakdown is on that, because there is no $1 buyout. It's a 4-year deal. So.
okay.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
If that's for a large truck to haul like big trailers from the dump to a larger transfer station, is that what that's?
Yes, that's to go, it's a roll-off truck for the cans and the compactors,
Oh,
yes, yeah,
What, do we pay somebody right now to do it?
we do. Currently, we're in a little bit of a debacle. Conway Incinerator in January notified us, end of January, that they were we're paying $320 a trip right now. And $72 a ton for Carberry, and I think we're about the same down in Eco Maine.
Let's go to inside, so yeah.
So, then they notified us and they told us that they were gonna jump to 700 per trip.
Oh, wow.
So it's more than double.
Yeah.
So we reached out to a couple different places. CIA said that they could do it for $275 a trip, but instead of $72 a ton, it's $170 a ton. So it's cheaper for us. It's a little painful with an upfront cost, but within 3 years, we've recouped what we would spend. And in the current warrant, under the transfer station budget, it's $100,000 just for trucking. And we're at what, 72 right now? A little over 72 trucking.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tight this year
Yeah.
without having an overage. So and this is my opinion, I'm not speaking for my colleagues. It would be beneficial for the town to buy its own truck, add another employee, and truck our own stuff so that we're not at the risk of CIA doing essentially what is happening with Conway Incinerator, where they double our cost, and we don't have a choice,
Right.
especially when it's mid-year. We can't hold a special town meeting because it's within 90 days of a regularly scheduled one. So if it happens right now, it's just an overage
Right.
that we have to raise and appropriate to put back in the general fund. So it would be beneficial for us to do it that way.
Thank you for explaining that.
Spirit of America Award for Jess Davis. I need to sign that. So there's all three of us
Yes,
signing this
sir.
one? Cliff, could you come up here, please? Okay, this is the job description for. Right. So. You doing this paperwork tomorrow?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure this is signed and get a copy and put it in this file that you keep. So this is the new one.
Yeah, okay.
So you have a copy of this? Okay, cool.
Put that back in there.
And this is that's the job description that we talked about.
Yeah.
And Greg will sign here tomorrow. The original go in his personal file. And click that copy down at his file. We're good with that.
Yeah, it's here. I just, there's no exception in the minutes. Yeah, just these minutes.
All right,
This is purchase order.
Fire chief received his, was in receipt of a new unit 1 for $18,819 to be expended out of the fire department capital improvement account. I will make the motion to approve this.
I'll second.
All in favor?
This is the fire chief's car.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's for the truck, so we put it on the ballot. Let's see, let's roll off. All right, we have what's called a highway congress. Not sure what that means, but this annual event is free to attend if you register before May 26th. There will be upwards of 100 vendors and 1,000+ public works and town officials attending. The snowplow rodeo with mini excavator and backhoe competition, as well as our time out for training stations. Lots of fabulous prizes under the grandstand following the chicken barbecue.
Scarborough, I'm in.
Was it being held?
Skowhegan.
Skowhegan Creek House.
Oh, yeah, at
This
this
up there,
on June
yeah.
5th.
It's worth it. It's good for the crew.
We want to sign it?
Yeah, if they wanna go. I mean, it's a good thing to do for morale booster, and they can see some equipment and get a
Wanna
free
schedule
chicken
that?
dinner.
I can do that.
So as you got it all scheduled and good to go and registered. Let Miss Patty know she can get it put on that. Public Works will be out of pocket on June 5th, which is a Thursday.
Correct. Is that the same one the state does?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's put on by Maine Municipal. Okay. We're in Communication
Not gonna be on lines
forms.
very soon.
Okay, so I got a communication form. I'd like to say how much I approve of the road work and repair I've seen in the last few weeks. The neglect of maintenance over the past 2 years is snowballing on the Old County Road. The increase in residents using this road has been noticeable. Please tell the Public Works Director, I'm glad to see his work underway. I know we have 9 bridges that need to be rebuilt and want to see this made known to the residents and taxpayers in print before the next town meeting.
I want to question that. I don't know where you're counting the bridge.
Yeah, me too.
Another one, communication form. I don't know if you are already aware that the stop sign and road name sign at the intersection of Indian Trail and 113 is missing.
I have signs from ordered from Whiteside.
Awesome, thank you. Got an email, from school board. I have a big ask of you, that is to come out to the school budget vote on Wednesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. at the Mollyocket School in Freiburg. This year's budgeting process has been a grueling one. We have worked extremely hard to reduce expenditures and control costs as much as possible without negatively impacting the education of our students. We know that everyone's expenses, households, towns, states, etc., have had significant increases. So we made an extra effort to manage the school budget as much as we possibly can and in some creative ways. There are a lot of rumors flying, such as the Brownfield Denmark School will be closed and parents will have to transport their children themselves to Mollyocket. This is not true, but has gotten people upset and on the warpath. They've also been made aware of residents who are unhappy with some of our school policies who plan to show up and vote the budget down to protest those policies. These two issues are in no way connected, and it is unfair to link them in a way that will be a serious disservice to our students and teachers. If you'd like to learn more about what is entailed in the entire budget, please come out to the informational meeting and budget presentation at the Brownfield Denmark School on Thursday, May 15th at 6:30. But most importantly, please mark your calendar and show up for the budget vote on May 28th. Planning board meeting tonight at 7. School board meeting, regular meeting tomorrow night at Mollyocket at 7 p.m. Town office closure Monday, May 12th. It's open from 7 to 12 and it's closed 12 to 4:30. So it is open the 12th, Monday the 12th, just for 5 hours. And it's mandatory ergonomics. Rails to Trails from Senator Bennett. I'm also concerned about these efforts to undermine the multi-use trail. As you know, significant work has been put in to make this plan a reality. 11 million has been committed from DOT to this project. There is no real plan for reestablishing the rail system because some of the land is owned by private interests who have shown no interest in selling. Thank you, sincerely, Rick. So, don't know what's happening with that. I'm sure we'll find out. For the truck. Sure.
And nothing to report.
PA system for the town meeting, yeah, it's possible, you mentioned once it's cheaper to rent one than,
It is cheap.
yeah, you don't have any resources of any. Maybe I'll ask, what's pretty good, the electronics stuff, with Lucy.
Michelle should be applying who we got from before.
Oh, okay, we got it before?
Yeah.
Okay.
We used one for the outside, and we had an outside meeting over here,
Uh-huh.
and then we had another one for, I don't know if they did last year.
I don't think so.
Year or two before that. We did. Because they come in and they set it up.
Mhm.
I know we did it for the 10.
Yeah, we used the one here that we got here for the DOT when they came
Oh, yeah.
on the roast here, but I don't know who spoke it. If Michelle's got it, I'll check out for Michelle.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it's all over.
Yeah.
Class for tomorrow morning.
Anybody got anything? Health officer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take a few minutes to catch up on a few things that have happened here in town quite recently. The first one I'd like to discuss for a minute is the valley cleanup that we recently participated in on Saturday. I manned the table out front. There were several individuals from town, 8 or 9 that came up, signed and indicated where they were going to be going to clean up. We distributed, I'm not even sure quite honestly, how many bags, gloves, et cetera. There were a number of people who drove up and volunteered to take, including one of the selectmen, to take the bags or whatever to the transfer station. But that had already been taken care of. Haleytown Road got a lot of attention, Center Conway, Old County, Pig Street. Those were all mentioned to me by the people who were signing off. I think when I see what they write up about this thing in the Conway Daily Sun today, if I'm still feeling young and robust, I think next year I'm going to volunteer to do this thing again and maybe buff it up a little bit, get some more faces. Okay. Just today, we had a class from a guy from North Coast Services. They're the outfit we do business with on a yearly basis. They come and pick up all the electronic stuff that we have at the transfer station, take it away. I've been reading and hearing a lot about batteries lately, the last year or so. In particular, and I'm going to impress myself with all of this lingo, lithium-ion batteries. I never knew there were so many damn batteries in this world. The guy had literally a bucket and he put them on the table. They're holy mackerel. But evidently, there's lithium type batteries and they're prevalent in things like all those phones that are on the desk. If they're broken, if they're punctured somehow or other, they can release a great deal of heat because of all the energy that they contain. And so it begins fires. I called the guy that I'm acquainted with that works for the DEP, and he says within a year or two, there will be quite a report coming out of DEP that will impact every town that has a transfer station, in that they're very concerned because, as he put it, I'll use his terminology, we're not getting much cooperation from these outfits that makes, what are those, I won't say cigarettes, what's the other? Vapes, yeah. Evidently, there's a battery in there.
Yeah.
And now the company that makes the most of them, that's making the most money selling them, has totally sealed the thing that they're in. Before, I guess you could open it somehow and change the battery if you had to. These are totally sealed, so they just say, toss it. Well, if you toss it, and then we got it up at the transfer station and we bang on it and it releases some of that energy in there, we could have an interesting time in the transfer station. So we had an educational session with the guy. He showed us how they take care of them using a particular type of tape, So, and I would like to thank all the guys who came in for that. It was, as far as I was concerned, it was very well attended. So that's the first session I think that we'll have probably in another several months. We should have a follow-up because I'm sure there'll be a lot of information out there about it. Okay,
Sweet.
thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Anybody else?
There's an increase of babies around town.
How'd you get treated?
I got treated like, animals should have their baby back faces because they did that. I had a skunk over bursting eating a possum.
Oh, nice.
Good nice video of it. And then we had that raccoon drivers.
Wonderful.
It's on the increase.
You know. I'm almost upset. I'm embarrassed bringing this up, but it's been brought to my attention several times, and I have personally witnessed it. This is no jest. Bird poop at the transfer station, 2-3 inches deep some places. There's a flock of crows that have decided that's where they're gonna take their life. They've centered themselves there. When it's not open, they're tearing the place up, eating away whatever they can. Now, I kid you not, I called the physician that I report to, so to speak, as health officer. I called her at CDC and she said, it's nature. There's birds and they poop. Well, I guess so don't raccoons, skunks and all the rest of them. But
They do cry.
I don't know, trying to keep a straight face, I don't know how to answer the individuals say to me, I'm sick and tired of walking around with this stuff. So I don't know what to say. Well, come up here and chase them away. I don't know. What do you do with a bird when you're gonna poop? You let them poop, I guess. So anyway, if I get 50, 60 volunteers to go up there and stand around with a stick, and every time they look like they're gonna let go, give them a whack.
Just feed them lithium batteries.
Yeah.
That'll be
There's a guy that's thinking, all right, wait.
or the spring tail.
Episodes of plus.
Sounds like an animal control problem, it sure does.
You think
I
they're
want-
rabid?
I wanna add a little bit to it. They're also screwing garbage all over the place. It's a mess. down there. I think the only answer to it is cover the dumpster somehow, like a top that, where we're gonna be doing hopefully doing our own thing, we can. I don't know exactly. Something to think about.
Yeah.
But if you, put a roll up top,
Compactors are good.
yeah,
We should only have to cover 2.
2 open doors.
Can you use netting?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, you can drop down, you can open up the front part, just drop it down, you're not there.
Metal net.
Couldn't you do the same thing with electric, like an electric fence? You know what I mean? They'll fly down in there, you're not hurting them, you're not dealing with going over there and catching a bird that's,
Till somebody walks in there and touches it or pees.
Yeah, you only have to use it for a week or 2.
Okay, so.
I mean, it's a good idea, I've seen plenty of dead
We're
birds.
just
on
gonna
electric
22
fence.
hours.
Might sit on it in the winter if you want.
We get aggressive.
Check.
Should they put up a notice about the lithium batteries for like the people that are using the vapes, not to throw them in the trash? And bring them down to the transfer station so they can take care of them properly? Or is that a fire waiting to happen?
It's all fire waiting to happen, man. My wife Tricia Lucier works at Cell Block. Cell Block is over in Standish. And they make a container and they're the only company in the state that's certified. That you buy the container and you can ship damaged lithium-ion batteries once it's in the container. Anybody, it comes with the licensing when you buy it. It's a fiber, it's a glass bead, and if there's a fire inside these containers, the bead falls over the fire and puts out the fire inside these fireproof boxes. The name of the company is Cell Block. And they make stuff like that where the town dump puts the batteries in as they get them. And all they gotta do is basically UPS it to, I think, a facility in Utah that recycles the battery. Go ahead.
May I suggest, since we've been doing business for several years with North Coast Services,
and they have a guy come here and give us an explanation of how they suggest that we handle it. I would suggest that we try it their way, and go from there.
We're contracted with them.
And we've been with them for a
Yeah.
number of years.
Yeah, we're contracted with those.
Where are they out of?
Uh, have several offices. I think they're in New Hampshire as well as Maine.
Like, this guy sells to Tesla and all large businesses. And he sells big giant units that they put inside facilities to store batteries. And he also builds small ones, like bags that we could have at our house for our laptops at night. So I would just look into it, you know, I'm not trying to say change services or nothing, just, it's a great company.
They might work together too.
He's actually, his house is over on 160 in Porter.
Well, if you have contact information, give them Miss Patty.
One other thought is Staples recycles batteries and electronics for free, might be worth checking out. I don't know if that includes lithium.
Yeah, we're contracted with the guy that shows up at the transfer station. Signed contract. Because we have to have somebody that's responsible to take the waste, so.
But we still need to kind of advertise that don't throw them in the trash. Because that's what the problem is, if they throw it in there, nobody knows.
I would suggest that, as a matter of fact, I was gonna ask permission to maybe make a 30-second spiel at town meeting. The more we tell people about these things, the better off we're gonna be.
Miss Patty,
And Bill, if you write
that
something
is
up, I'll put it in the newsletter.
Facebook
Right.
page,
Very good.
and also the town website. We have banners on those, right? On the
Yeah.
website. Add that as a banner on the website.
Those batteries.
Yep. Anybody else? No? Community resilience. The floor is yours, man.
All right, we take a 5-minute break. We have some things we're going to set up. And also welcome anyone who's planning to stay. If we want to set up the chairs in a little bit more of a semicircle and less of a regular situation. We can reconvene in 5 to 10 minutes.
This is where and this one.
Yes. Well, yes. Thank you.
Well, I see.
It's all right. Be okay if we use this table to put a poster up? So I saw on Facebook that Zoom links went out. It was different than the one we had set up. I was wondering if anyone was Zooming in. Well, looks like it's just me now, but we'll, we'll put it up on our YouTube channel. Awesome. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure, because I think we had 2 different links, and we didn't have anyone who signed up for the other link, so I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, if there's gonna be, I mean, I can only go so far, right, but. And that's the movie.
Right.
It'll still pick up, I can like move it right over here.
No, we'll just, yeah. Oh, you guys are efficient.
Benny, you hanging out for this? Oh, yeah.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, we're gonna be-
Squeal.
I won't say anything.
Oh, yeah, you need 2 votes to adjourn, right? Or nobody goes home. Here's a good company chip, though, wins my vote. Oh, the buffet table.
It is actually. Yes, start setting that up about 3. I realized you forgot the channel. Pretty much gonna be standing right here. Yeah, for the most part. I think we might end up sitting at some point as well, but.
Can I move this back just a little further? So the side people can see it.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe at some point we might need to move it forward, so maybe we'll give everyone a second and maybe rearrange. We have a bunch
Sorry about that. Yes.
Maybe wants to another chair.
I did, yes. Yes. What titles do you have? First title. Tornado, tornado. No, second one. Well, they call the group because they had to sign an application. Something to sign an application. Had to be my rate. So be part of the eligible. You have to form a group.
Hello, I think we're ready to get started. First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. I do want to be respectful of people who are over on this side, so maybe, I don't know if it would work if we all shifted down a little bit. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming out. This is the first of 2 workshops to discuss Brownfield's enrollment in the Community Resilience Partnership. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. I just wanted to start by giving you a sense of what we'll be discussing. So we're going to start off by talking about what the Community Resilience Partnership is, how Brownfield got involved, and give you a chance to ask some questions. We'll talk about what Brownfield's already done so far related to this topic of community resilience. And then since we're a pretty big group here, we're going to break out into breakout groups to discuss your reactions to what Brownfield's done so far and ideas for what Brownfield could do next. So just wanted to get a sense, I saw you're taking pictures already. Are folks, give a thumbs up if you're okay with us taking pictures, and a thumbs down if you want us to leave you out. We sometimes document these for the state and for social. Seeing
Seeing a lot of thumbs up.
thumbs up, okay, so.
You want to reach?
You keep your face out of it. Photo from the side. Great, we just like to double check about that. And then finally, just as we're starting off here, wanted to get a show of hands and get a sense of how people heard about tonight. So hands up if you saw it in the newsletter for the town. Cool. How about on social media? How about flyers? And the website. Alright, sweet. Thank you. And any others that, other places you saw it, word of mouth? Word of mouth? Anyone else word of mouth?
But that's my own fault.
Hey, no. Great. Well, with that kind of housekeeping stuff, we want to get into it. We can start just by introducing ourselves, and then we'll ask if you could do a really quick rounds around the room so we know who you all are. But we are here from the Center for an Ecology-Based Economy, or CD. It's kind of a mouthful, so we call it CD. My name is Claire Emmerich. I'm the Community Resilience Coordinator, and I'm joined.
My name is Tamara Benson. I am the newly hired Community Resilience Director. Today's my second day, so very excited to be here. Excited to hear from all of you. So, yeah.
Cool. We want to go around the room and say names and affiliation to the town or otherwise, if you have any.
Vinny from Harrow.
Bill Flynn.
Chad Pine.
Barbara Holton. Deb Tate.
Susie Lynn, I was with the comprehensive plan.
Judy McElvain.
Oh, Neil McElvain, married to a.
Rick Henry Slimer.
Richard Peralt, Fire Chief, EMA Director and Town Board.
Brian.
Amy Frenchman.
Brian.
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 Brian's driving.
Pass. Okay.
Lillian Tilson. Heather McElroy.
Terry Egan and Judy on one of the crickets, which is the Community Resilience Committee people. That's how we got it.
Joe Egan, same.
Excuse me, I'm trying to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
May I ask, because this isn't the first meeting that I've been to that says it's resiliency. Oh, fuck. Why are we acting like this is the first?
This is the first workshop.
Sorry, yes, and we're just about to get into it, but that's a great point. So we did have a meeting with the select board and a few different folks in town. You included and the fire chief and members of the Community Resilience Committee to talk through some of the enrollment materials, which you actually all have a summary of that in your folder. So that's where the responses to that came from. We'll be getting into that more in the meeting, but yes, this isn't the first time we've met with Brownfield about this program, but it is the first of 2 official public workshops that are satisfying the requirements of the program. So thank you for asking that.
You guys are ahead of me.
So, is that pen not working? We have others available. Swap out. That was a good throw. I don't think I can return it quite as well. Great, so yes, that's the context for this meeting. We've had a few conversations, and really what tonight is about is gathering feedback, starting a conversation with you all about what you would like to see Brownfield do. We always like to be really clear with everyone in these meetings that it is an opportunity to share your voice and be heard, but it's ultimately the select board that will make any decisions around projects or anything the town does. So we just like to be clear about that. We're not doing any decision making tonight. This is a public forum. So with that, if there's no further questions about this meeting, we wanted to get into what the Community Resilience Partnership is, what are we even talking about here. And so this is a state of Maine program that's housed in the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future, which helps communities in Maine reduce their energy usage, transition to clean energy, and become more resilient to climate impacts. This program's been around since 2022. They actually just announced the 5th round of grants through this program last week, and so it's still going strong. But to be eligible for the grants available through this program, towns need to enroll. And what that process looks like is towns need to complete 2 resilient self-assessments, which we have first drafts completed thanks to the conversation we had with the select board and others in town. Then towns need to prioritize actions that rise to the top, things you would like to pursue in the next 2 or so years. And then you'll pass a resolution saying, here's our actions that we're interested in pursuing, and yes, we would like to enroll in the partnership. Once you do all of that, CD as a service provider helps Brownfield submit those materials to the state, and you're eligible to apply for grants. Those grants are up to $75,000 and are available roughly every 8 to 10 months. We do like to let people know these are competitive grants. There's a lot of towns interested in this program, and I think they have over 250 towns now participating. But we have a pretty good success streak with getting towns their grants. All of the towns we helped apply in the last round just received their funding. And so that's kind of an overview of the program. Just to reiterate, CD is what we call a service provider. We receive funding from the state through this same program to help communities like Brownfield enroll, because it can be a bit of a lift. A lot of towns don't have a committee that's been formed to work on this. And so we're working with 2 other communities to help them enroll, and have worked with 16 other communities to date. So it's been a really good run. Something else, I know there's a lot of uncertainty around federal funding, and so question we get asked straight off the bat oftentimes is this program federally funded? It's good to know where the money's coming from. It's a mix. So it's a mix of funding from the state biannual budget and some federal funding. The program existed before it was accessing federal funding. It will continue existing after that if there's to lose any of that funding. But we just like towns to know that this program is sustainable, it's going to keep going, and has been approved for additional funds from the state. So that's a very high overview. You also have a document in your folders that has a little bit more detail about the program if you're interested in learning more. But I talked plenty so far, so I wanted to give a break, see if anyone had questions, more details you'd like to know about the program.
So Claire, these grants are all no match for the town, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. So these are no match grants. There is a list of eligible categories of projects. It's a very I'd say nearly exhaustive list. We'll be going into more detail about that particular list at the second meeting. Tonight is really about kind of visioning and big picture, what you'd like to see Brownfield do. But yes, those grants are no match. And if you were to come up with something that doesn't fit into that list of, ready to go, previously approved projects, you can still receive funding through this program. There would just be a 10% local match in that case if you got really wild with it. But if you're connecting to this idea of resilience, the state's pretty open to funding these projects.
Are the grants just for outside projects? What about inside projects?
Outside versus inside, literally.
Well, as far as
Yes.
outside, like a rec center, things that could be done there, it would be wonderful to do the inside of that gym.
Yeah, that's a great question. So both are eligible. There's lots of towns who have pursued installation of heat pumps, weatherization, converting to LEDs, which I know you all have done a good job with that in town buildings. But there's a lot of building related work. Also important to specify, this is targeted towns, so it's all municipal projects. You wouldn't, for example, be able to weatherize a neighbor's home or,
Right.
it's for community use. But the town can also partner with other organizations. Let's say the rec center wasn't owned by the town, it's a nonprofit. If the town wanted to partner with that nonprofit on the grant, that would be an eligible opportunity as long as the town is.
Library?
Yeah, someone had asked me, how is that money gonna be funneled through? Will it come to the town coffers and then distributed to whoever doing the work?
Yep, so that's exactly how it goes. Something that's nice about this program is it's not a reimbursement like a lot of grant programs. So the town will, if you receive, if your grant's approved, then you'll receive the lump sum at the start of the grant period, and then it's on the town to dole that out to whoever's been contracted for the work or whoever is receiving it.
It could be funneled through the health officer and then.
I heard he's not very trustworthy.
Okay.
So, assuming that you get a grant, how then is it traced back to you? Does the town then have to do reports back to?
Yes, so it would be going to GOPIF, the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future. Another mouthful, I hate saying it, GOPIF from here on out. They are the ones who manage this grant program. So there is quarterly reporting, and then at the end of the grant period, there would be a final report. I'll say as far as grant reporting goes, it's one of the lighter lifts I've seen. So it's good to be aware if you're not getting into having with a bunch of paperwork. Mhm.
Where it says climate impacts, and you said it can be used for inside or outside. So like, if they wanted to put in a playground and they wanted to use the things that would help the resilient or the climate out there, is that something that money can be used for?
So that, in that case, it might be a stretch if it is funding a playground, that's.
But it's on the
Okay.
municipal property.
Right, yeah, even if it's on municipal property, I'll say that doesn't quite align with the goals of this program. Now, if it were, I don't know, if there's a rain garden element, or if there's a pollinator garden being tied into the playground. We've seen, for example, in Otisfield, their town partnered with the local elementary school, and they built pollinator gardens for the students there with this funding. But it does look to have kind of this resilience element when we're talking about climate impacts. Some external, outside projects might include doing assessment of infrastructure in town to see its flood resilience, or we've seen towns, for example, Harrison received funding from DEP to upgrade 2 of their culverts to be better fish passage, but also to be more resilient to flooding. And so they use this grant to match those larger grants. So that's kind of, yeah.
So that can go from the three-sided culvert.
Mhm.
Because we got Fen Hill going on right now, and we got another one that's gonna be coming up in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something to be aware of that we learned the hard way, but we're able to navigate with the state is that they won't fund construction. But if it's engineering and design costs, they can cover that with this program.
So you guys work with Trout's Unlimited on those projects?
We have not,
No.
yeah, in Harrison, they were working with Lakes Environmental Association
Yep.
specifically. So I don't think Traps Unlimited was involved with that project.
So the culvert program, would you be providing money for the culverts, materials?
It would just be design costs,
Just
so they
design
can't,
engineering?
no physical materials there.
Yeah, the engineering cost on, was Benson's Mills, which is right there, right at the base of Water Road. That was $35K for the engineering on
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
that. Yeah, that was covered by the Trout's Unlimited. And we got grant for that as well. Yeah.
Any other questions?
So I think I remember that active transportation was one of the categories, and we are trying to work with the DOT to establish a rail trail coming down from Flyburg through Hiram for engineering, say, at a trailhead. That's something that could be considered as far as active transportation.
Yeah, that's somewhere where I'd love to check in with the state. They have, yeah, that's another thing that CB does as we're helping you develop your grant project, you know. We often check into the state to make sure it's eligible. So that's something we want to check in about. They just sometimes have rules that aren't specified, you know, in the grant documents that you just have to tease out from them. So it could be eligible. The only reason I'm really hesitating to say it is I believe Casco in their last grant that they submitted in December was trying to go that direction, and that grant wasn't funded. I don't know if it was for another reason. I wasn't directly involved with submission of that grant, but just wanted to flag that maybe there's an issue with that.
But you have like 100% success rate with grants, don't you?
We do so far. Right.
So,
Yes.
is there certain classes of projects that would be more apt to be getting a grant than others? Whether it's heat pumps might get them before installation, you know, other things that are more apt to get a grant that we would probably focus on rather than just try to do something and, you know, not maybe get a grant on it, you know. It's with,
Yeah, that's a good question. There isn't, so the scoring is uniform across all project types. They're not giving more scoring for certain projects. What we were telling towns in the last round is that they at least had more funding available for resilience related improvements versus energy related improvements. Because that federal funding that got added into the mix, the state received a $69 million grant from NOAA last summer. And so this previous grant round was the first time they were funneling that federal funding through. And so we were just telling towns, you know, you're not going to get more scoring or a better score for going with, let's say, an assessment of your road infrastructure. But there was more funding available for this project, so you have a better chance, you know, just there's a larger pot there. Everything's up in the air now, so I wouldn't say that any longer, but yes, we're kind of playing it by ear, how much funding is available for each. I'll say in our last round, despite sharing that guidance, almost every town wanted to do energy improvements anyway, and those were all funded, so I think the state also has some flexibility with some of the funds they're able to move around. And so I would really say whatever makes the most sense for Brownfield at this point in time is what you should go forward with. What does factor into the scoring, and this is more of an issue for the select board and the committee and further down the road, is the state's really interested in this community engagement and equity aspect. And so that is part of the scoring. It's a section on the grant where they ask, how are we going to engage the community and how is it going to benefit everyone in your community, including people who are more vulnerable to climate change. And so that's just something that we need to be aware of. Maybe if you choose to build in community engagement activities or have signage or have an active piece of it, even if you're just installing heat pumps or have these projects that don't necessarily directly impact people. So that's the only thing I would flag in terms of better scoring.
So, I don't wanna take Dick's thunder here, but, given that one of the goals or something we're trying to address is climate change and resiliency, seems like we are having more brush fires that get out of control fairly quickly. I don't even know how you would address that, if you have any ideas, but is that anything you're aware of that towns are addressing at all?
I'm not aware of that. I don't know if anyone else has
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
something.
Maine Forest Service has programs that they go out and they assess a town. You know, we get into assessments, buildings and stuff like that. As far as addressing what we do is that the only thing we do is our current permits is that we control it that way. Most of your fires that are started out from a brush fire or a campfire. Not much you can do.
Other than educate people?
Educate people and they gotta know.
Yeah.
I don't mind hiking the mountain, but it wasn't bad.
Real estate smoking.
There.
Any other questions? These have all been great. This has been a really productive conversation so far.
I don't know if this would be in the parameters, but riparian zones. We've got a nice Shepherd River here, and the river's just eating away at that. At the sides. So I don't know if that's an energy thing.
No, that totally counts. That's part of that be more resilient to climate impacts, even though it's a little different, but like protecting our riparian zones is totally, that's one of the actions, is to have conservation and revegetation as a nature-based strategy, and that helps with flooding as well. This is also a casual meeting, so if questions come up later, feel free to pause and ask them, but with that, maybe we'll move along. I'm just keeping an eye on time. So we'll see in your folders, there's some just facts about climate change. Just because I want to be respectful of everyone's time and we got a little bit of a late start, kind of breeze past that, but if we want to talk about that later after the meeting, we can always return to that. So I want to bring us to the other packet in there, which is the community resilience self-evaluation. So this was one of those steps, completing assessments. The self-evaluation is an opportunity for Brownfield to take stock of what you're doing well so far and identify maybe some next steps where you'd like to go next. And so again, we completed a draft version of this with help from the select board, the community resilience committee, fire chief, health officer, and others. And those results are summarized here. It's a lot to page through, but if I were to give a quick, very high level summary, I'd say Brownfield is doing better than practically any town we've spoken to in terms of thinking about this. And I credit that a lot to your fire chief. Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of really great assets in town. You have a local hazard mitigation plan that's being regularly updated. Not all towns have that. A lot lean a lot more heavily on the county to take the lead there. It seems like you've been also making progress on some specific resilience-related projects. On the final page, there's a summary of what I heard at the last meeting. I may have missed some things, but what's already happened is quite a lot. So there's projects that are in progress related to assessing electricity usage. I think maybe the committee was taking the lead on that. There's the 10-mile river demonstration forest that Oxford County Soil and Water Conservation District has, where they're planting a food forest. That would be an option for you. There's native plants and a pollinator garden at the library. We're working on improving townwide communication, including alerts for the website, which is something I want our town in Norway to set up. So I think I want to learn from you all about how you're doing that. You're doing the work with Trout Unlimited. You have the rail trail, and you're part of the, let's see, I have it in here somewhere, the Eastern Slopes Regional Broadband Committee, working with Spectrum to expand fiber access. So there's a lot of work that's happening right now. It's also fantastic that you established a committee. A lot of towns, if they establish a resilience committee at all, it's usually after this enrollment process. So I'm really thrilled that you all took the initiative and have people who are dedicated to moving this work forward. And there's just, you can see the full list, but there's a lot of energy already here.
The broadband committee has been dismantled. It's been disbanded.
Yes.
That was essentially all the SAD 72 towns. And that was late last year.
Okay.
That was disbanded, because they come up with Spectrum, stepped up, and there were, Freiburg. They've got another plan up in there, but Spectrum seems to be the answer to that. So that committee has been disbanded.
Cool. Thank you for that correction. And yeah, it's good when we can sunset things too. Won't leave them anymore. So yeah, a lot of energy there. I do want to take a second. I've been talking a ton, so we do have people from the town. If there's any resilience related activities that you'd like to spotlight that either aren't on the list or I haven't said out loud here, I wanted to open the floor if you wanted to chime in with anything that you're pleased with. I thought that's also fine. But yes. Yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. And so that's something I want us to ground this conversation in, is to recognize the work that you've done so far, to pat yourselves on the back for it, and also to think big about what can come next. Where would you like to go? And so just speaking a little bit about how the rest of this meeting will go and what our next meeting on May 20th will look like. Tonight is really dedicated to answering those questions that are on the very front of this page. So thinking about what Brownfield is doing well, to areas that could be improved in the short term, and what's important to address in the long term. We're also going to have time to brainstorm big picture, like get wild with the projects we'd like to see Brownfield do. At our next meeting, we'll be taking that big picture thinking, bringing it down to the concrete, looking at the list of eligible actions for the program, having a more contained discussion based on feedback from the select board and the committee, and really trying to leave that second meeting with a goal, looking at what projects you'd like to pursue, or at least a set of projects you would like to pursue for your next grant, as well as that longer list of actions that you'd like to commit to in the municipal resolution. So I just say that, I know we got into the nitty gritty about grant details, which I think is fantastic. We do want to be rooted in what this program can cover. But we also, if you come up with an idea that doesn't fit neatly into this program, we can look at other grant options. CD is not required to get you a grant through this program if it's not a good fit for what you come up with. We're just here to help you get some source of funding. Maybe it's going to come from elsewhere. So I just want to encourage everyone to keep that in mind. Anything that feels like it fits this idea of community resilience, at least for tonight, like, let's be open to it. So with that, I know, again, a quick kind of rundown, but does anyone have questions, maybe not directed at me, directed at others in the room, about what Brownfield has done so far?
Yeah. Is there a list in there of like all kinds of different things that you do? Can you tell us some small projects, small projects and some larger ones?
Absolutely, yeah, so, and just to clarify, I'll say a lot of these happen without CD being directly involved. We sometimes, we help towns get their grant, but oftentimes they take the lead with actually implementing the projects. I just wanted to clarify that, but I'd say on the smaller scale, we have helped towns, and towns have taken the lead on doing community engagement activities. So like Otisfield had a community supper that was about energy resilience and have resources related to how you can make your home more efficient. So that's like that small scale education piece. Small scale, there's been small heat pump installations, so just doing like a few mini splits, in a building that doesn't need a more complex system. There's been, on the larger end, I'd say the culvert project is one of the larger, more ambitious projects that's been funded through this. There's been some assessment work. So Norway, for example, did kind of a high scale vulnerability assessment where they had an engineer look at all their roads, dams, and bridges. They also contracted CB to help look at who in the town was most vulnerable to different types of impacts. And so those are kind of different scales. Another, both small and large, was some solar pre-development. So Parsonsfield just got funding for that, and Otisfield did a similar project where they contracted someone. It was a pretty small cost, but to do an initial assessment of town land that they're interested in having solar installed, to be a community solar farm for town residents, and to cover municipal electricity usage. And so that's a small scale, kind of small assessment that can set the stage for a much bigger project if those towns choose to proceed with contracting someone to install. I'm rambling, but one last example of that large scale is Norway had a capped landfill that wasn't doing the town any good. There's not much you can use for that. And so they partnered with a solar developer to put a 1 megawatt solar farm on that capped landfill. And that energy then covers the town's usage, it covers the school's usage, and a lot of businesses in downtown. So yeah, that's kind of a range of projects.
So could you could you use some of that money for an assessment, like where somebody would come in and look at the culverts, look at our lighting, look at our heating systems, and then say, like, here's where you could improve it. And let's just say that costs 20,000, but we had 75,000. Could we then combine that with, say, putting, new light fixtures in, or new heat pumps in, or new culverts in, to actually use the money for that? So it's, kind of a combination.
Yeah, you can definitely do combinations. They don't even need to be related. I like to give the example of Otisfield because they went all over the place with at least one of their grants where they had like 4 totally unrelated projects, but it all fit under that. At that time, it was $50,000, so it fit within the grant budget. And so they had emergency kits that they made for residents. They did the pollinator garden. They had the community engagement event. And they did an assessment, an energy assessment of town buildings to generate a list of next priority projects. And they added in that solar pre-development assessment. So you can have like many unrelated projects. You don't have to have a cohesive narrative.
How many projects like would one town be eligible for? And how often could they apply for grants after they received one? I mean, you mentioned 8 to 10 months, so is it you're eligible every 8 to 10 months, even though you had a grant?
Yes. Yeah, and you can have an active grant and apply for more grants and have multiple active grants at a time. These one thing I didn't say, it's again, kind of logistics, maybe not as important for all of us, but these are 1 to 2 year grants. So you could say, you know, we have a grant on a 2-year timeline, 8 to 10 months later, we apply for a grant that's on a 1-year timeline, and that is fine. There's only been one time so far where the state had rules around who could apply. They had one round, I think, around this time last year, where only first-time applicants were eligible. But otherwise, you're eligible to keep applying, and as long as your grant application is solid and scores well, then you can have multiple grants.
So what are some of the other grant sources other than the Community Resilience Partnership?
Yeah, so there's other state funding. For example, I mentioned the DEP stream crossing grant that Harrison got, so we can look at other sources of state funding. There are some foundations who will fund municipal projects. I know Stephen King Foundations or Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation often fund municipal work. And there's a really great resource, something that whoever is identified as the point of contact for your town moving forward will receive a resource that's shared that has regular grant updates about opportunities that are coming up. We often look to that as a resource to make sure we're aware of what's available, because things are always changing. There's things opening, there's one-time things, there's, you know, a shifting landscape. But yeah, I'd say high level, primarily looking at other state grants and then maybe some foundation grants. At one time, I would have said federal, but that's probably the direction we would go.
So these types of grants will pay for the planning of a project, but not necessarily the physical act of doing the project. Is that correct?
In some cases, culverts is the specific example where it will fund the construction costs, but it will fund the engineering. But in terms of energy projects, lots of towns have done solar installations with these funds. They've done heat pump installation, upgrading lights to LEDs, buying energy efficient appliances, weatherizing town buildings. These are all eligible costs that are the physical costs.
So if the proposed plan called for coming up to this wall from the outside, digging a hole down, breaking through the foundation and building a stairwell from downstairs up to the back so that you have an entrance and an exit there as well as there. That would allow the town then to use downstairs as a meeting room, da 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 da. It can't now. We're not supposed to do it. So the actual labor part, breaking the concrete, you won't come up with the loot for that, but you'll give us the money to pay for the plan to do that.
I'll say that's an example that might not fit well into this program.
Of course.
That one in particular, yes. So, I mean, we could always ask the state if there is a resilience element, maybe, you know, being able to meet down there would make this an option for an emergency center.
What are you doing?
I told you you had to try.
So if there was gonna be insulation put in or heat pumps put in, would the grant pay for the complete project or just portions of it, for like heat pumps, something like that, anything that's climate related would pay for the entire project?
Yes, the caveat with heat pumps that I forgot to mention is the state does ask that you use available efficiency Maine funds. It doesn't mean that the town needs to pay anything out of pocket, but they say, you know, if there's an efficiency Maine funding opportunity, we want you to leverage that and these funds.
So if it's like insulation or something,
Right.
the grant would pay for everything,
Yes.
the materials, the labor, the engineering.
And do you help with that? Does your group help if it's coming from that, you know, clean energy, whatever it is, source?
Efficiency, yeah, so if it's efficiency Maine, typically the installers will handle that end. Yeah, they'll file the paperwork that's necessary. CD can. In some instances, for example, some towns have wanted to use direct pay federal tax credits. We are still learning that process as well. It's kind of new to everyone, but we do have people on staff who are kind of training up in that. And so we are available, you can bring us up. There's lots of towns who continue to have a relationship with us after we complete that first grant. So if there's specific questions or issues that come up, we can help with those.
So every proposal that we come up with, that we would want to go for a grant, has to be tied, when we're writing it up, it has to be tied to reducing energy or clean energy or climate impact. So everything has to kind of tie into that in order to get right.
Yes.
Correct.
That I want to give us a second. So we're going to break into breakout groups, but before we do that, I want to give everyone a second to reflect on what we've done so far. So there's those questions on the front of that packet. And I want to give us like 2 to 3 minutes. If you need a pen, we have, most of these should work. We have these up here. And I want to give you all a second to write your thoughts, and we're going to go into breakout groups and discuss that together. But gonna take a few minutes. Holler if you need a pen or put your hands up.
Just in reference to Bill's questions for us, the basement. You were talking because the basement is so close to the outside air access or anything. I know you kept thinking some flooding down there. And I don't know if that's created anything because there is an outside air exchange.
Quite a bit of water. Get everything out there. But a lot of stuff we have to get through.
Well, that's a case where there might be, I don't see it necessarily fitting into the no match category, but it could be a, 10% local match on that if there is flood resilience, like we need access to space. And that opens up the opportunity to fish it down there as one thing.
I mean, that's what it's there for.
Modern.
You even brought bowls for it.
Most of the information is on the way it's done at this point, I'll go through the questions.
I'll be back, right? So I need to shift that around.
So I got two thirds.
Don't actually. But we do have our contact information on.
Oh, I'm not, I believe that you're correct, it's not a work. I'm still with. I think. I sure will, yeah.
Thank you.
Stay away from the popcorn.
Well, and then, I mean, we have one of our like staff members, does traffic consulting and works like conservation. Honestly, it's for.
That's my.
I'm such a boring person. I'm thinking.
We're looking at the actual breakouts.
Yeah. Nothing hurts, so nothing hurts.
Yes.
So I was told you're going to meet in another space. I don't know what other space your meeting is.
Are you not, you're not done?
We're not done until 7:30.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
back
sorry,
it
I
up.
would talk to the town staff about it.
That's
Sorry
fine.
about that.
You guys are meeting the other one? I know. Then people will find out that they're done. It doesn't sound like they are. Who needs it? Who needs it?
I'm looking for some movie for like the library.
I think so, yeah. I mean, we're just, let's throw out as many ideas as we can. It does right now. I think it's.
This is your fault. You can give me another heart attack.
Let's just try to flow through it.
I'm sorry, but you
Flowers, like native flowers, that, yeah.
You need us to move?
Yeah, well, I'm just speaking, so it feels like we're losing a lot of people, so maybe we'll do 2 breakouts.
There's still a young library.
Yeah, no, we talked to the. Well, I heard necessary to have.
Yeah, I think
Doug.
Yeah, I want just the.
Right.
I have meetings.
Yeah.
Miss Caddies.
We're down to maybe two.
I'm just seeing how much stuff we brought out, thanks.
Yeah.
No, Eric went back with the computer.
Okay, perfect.
You guys wanna move up here, we can have things too.
Go ahead.
You are.
We're good.
We're good. Go ahead. Listen, I gotta study this now. Break it up. That's how I That's how I get ahead of all my stuff, that she goes, you have, it takes time, but I get hounded by the DMA office to do this stuff. We can, okay, so sounds like a plan. I'll go on that.
Okay. Alright. We can,
Are we just gonna like run through?
we've become a much smaller group, so I think we can make instead of doing breakouts, because we had some.
Did everybody else leave?
Planning board, yeah. Didn't realize we had so many.
They didn't get it from there. They each get it from there.
So why don't you then come up, like, then we're all three.
Yeah, no, I think we're good here.
We're good.
Yeah. I think all.
Terry. Terry, you can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're gonna all come on, right?
I think we're going to, but you guys are good, yeah, I think we could just have a big group discussion together. Yeah, we can move in closer, you guys can come back there if you want, you can listen.
But we have anything to say, well.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm still learning about this stuff, so.
Well, we have a lot to learn from you too, so. Well, hopefully you all had some, time to think about the questions, we're just gonna run through them. You can share the thoughts that came up for you, and we can have a discussion. So, starting off with 2 things that you think Brownfield is doing well.
Farming.
Farming.
Are you kidding?
In the library, it's a pollination.
Pollinator garden,
Pollinator garden.
and it's spreading, it's growing.
You have these yet?
Oh, yeah, I had one.
Oh, with the library, this year? I don't know.
I'll take a field trip next time I'm there.
And we thought we'd do well with investigating sources for funding and grants and obtaining volunteers to help out with stuff and things.
I really like, I would have met the farmer, the minute. There,
Your genius is over here, Bill.
I shouldn't. Oh.
We have the Dutch caps on, we're actually using Josie's.
Oh, that's
I didn't have.
that's very well thought out. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else that you feel like Brownfield's doing well that we wanna throw up here?
Well, I think, we know a lot that we're doing well, just from the assessment that we did earlier.
There's been a lot of improvements, but I don't know if they're energy related, like they just did some ADA improvements here, but it's old people energy.
No, making things accessible.
Yes.
Aging in place, everyone knows is part of the problem there.
I think what we learned when we did this self-assessment with you is all the stuff that our fire chief does that I think a lot of people in town aren't aware of, but, you know, are very, helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
So
I think, yeah, I think that's something that could be a short term, something that could be improved. We're doing it now, but let's let other, I had no idea that you were such a hero. No, I'm being sarcastic, but I mean, really, no, but it's true, it opened up my eyes, seriously, it opened up my eyes.
Involving the youth
How
and the rec center and the library.
Well,
And I don't think half the people in this town know.
they don't, because.
Actually involving all the ages of rec center.
Years ago, when I brought all this stuff to the select board,
Yeah.
every one of them says, they don't want nothing to do with what I do. So
Yeah,
when you
wrong.
bring stuff up and mention it, it just, they don't.
Maybe things have changed.
Things are different.
I don't bring it up.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I think things are
I
different.
I just do it because it helps the town.
Yeah.
Just do.
Painting class.
Oh, really? Yeah.
The EMA office is the one that, Oxford County recommends.
Yeah,
All the time.
coffee hours.
They're the ones that listen to where I do. It's wrapped around my funding.
Yes.
Through the government.
But I think it's something that we could now, using this platform, get out to people. And maybe now, so many years later, people are more aware of climate change and needs that you're doing to help that.
Yeah, we talk about it at the EMA office all the time. This is stuff that, the storms, all the stuff that we come, we bring it back into our plans. We have a big 5-year plan through the state office that we have to do every 5 years. So I have to look around here, see what is gonna be disastrous, something that we're gonna get funding for. I get funding through some of that EMA stuff, but I have to have all this stuff done. So I got pretty much things going pretty good.
And I think that's fabulous, but we need to let the people know that.
But that might be a nice little dinner type thing.
Exactly.
Incorporates that.
Right, not just, I think that needs to be, we have to do that in a way that really draws people out, not just, this is a informational meeting, because they'll be blown off. I mean, we know it. But if it was done at.
I'm always assessing what's going on here. We have storms, I'm on the road. We have a windstorm, snowstorm, I'm on the road. Out there with public works, we find stuff and I jot it down, and that's how we get our money back from FEMA. Is that I'm out there and make all this stuff up. All the stuff we gotta do, we've gotten a substantial amount of money back in the last 3 years. One of them, we got $100,000 back, the other one was 65. Just
So
fine.
those are the kind of things that the people that are always complaining need to know. Seriously.
what was that for, Dickie, that you got that money back for?
It was for the storms we had. We had rainstorms, snowstorms, and stuff like that. I'm out assessing, and then I have to go down and all the work that I have to do, I gotta pick this, I go through.
Right.
Submit it to FEMA, and they pay 75%, state pays 20%, the town has 5%.
Huh.
Something like that. So the last 2 I done. The first one was almost $100,000 back to the town, and then the other one was around 70,000, between 65 and 70. But that's with the help of, like Patty would be involved in it, Public Works. So it's quite a process we do. It's a lot of work. We get something back out of it. The town gets reimbursed for the stuff they use on the roads.
Right.
So it sounds like we have maybe a first contender for the next question, which is 2 areas to improve in the short term. Better communication about what the town's doing already. I like that idea. Maybe do some more personal community meal or places that people are already going to be. We got to the session like this one, that might not attract as many people. Other things that people have for areas to improve in the short term.
I think better ventilation in town buildings.
Stuff in here.
It is, yeah, and we put a window unit in where you can't hear anything, it's so loud, so, better energy efficient cooling system or heating or whatever, here and in the community center. I mean, the community center, we have a new boiler in the past year?
Yeah,
Is
we
it?
got a new heating system.
Yeah, which doesn't always work, but.
But wouldn't that come under just first having an assessment?
Yeah, yes.
Yep. Take that step first and then you.
They wouldn't put money in for, like an air filtration system, like just portable ones for when it's flu season, COVID season. I mean, that wouldn't be something that would come under that, would it, for grant money?
Yeah, I think it would be a bit of a stretch,
Yeah,
but we
okay.
could potentially look
It
at
has to be
other
climate,
programs, yeah.
Energy efficient,
Mhm.
even if it's an energy efficient
Right.
filtration system.
But
One place
if you
if-
started with that though, it'd be deluge. I mean, what community wouldn't say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's get that us.
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's the wildfire smoke component to it, you know, there is a place for air filtration.
Yeah.
I think there'd have to be a narrative about making that connection and Brownfield being impacted. But I wouldn't totally rule it out for one of those 10% match programs.
I think more energy efficient lighting, indoors and outdoors.
There's good work there so far, but maybe in the gym is where it's lacking. And outdoors, something I didn't mention, the CMP contract, so all streetlights, it sounds like are LEDs at this point.
Well, they are, yeah, that was one on my list, so.
Yeah,
They're probably only used.
sounds like, at least from the paperwork I saw, as of October 2024. Now, that's not external lights on town buildings, but CMP's are with it. Feel good there, anything else, short-term improvements?
Yeah, if I may just like reframe the question, what feels like some options that might make this community feel more resilient in general? Maybe you've already named all of the things that come to mind, but.
So, portable generators, would that be included for something resiliency if there's climate catastrophe?
Yeah, well, you can
gonna write
write it down, yeah. This program has specifically said they won't accommodate like propane generators or anything like that.
Okay.
But if it's like battery storage or, you know, that.
No fossil fuel.
No fossil fuels, yeah. But that doesn't mean, this is another place, like, I think it's good to name what this community needs, even when it doesn't match the funding priorities.
Gets it out of the way.
I mean, I think, Sue's touched on it, but the Shepherd River really could use a good cleanup. With down trees, we live right on the Shepherd River, and there's a bunch of trees that are just, blocking,
However, you talk to a fisherman and that's good.
well, yes.
And you know
Water has
what?
to flow though.
As often as I walk there, it eventually really gets so high and fast. And
We've had 2 huge trees down for 3 years, they haven't touched. They got hurt. But anyway, and I don't know if that's something that's really important to the town, I'm not sure it is. But the river does flow through a good portion of the town, certainly. And right now, I think it's a healthy river.
That's not short term.
One of the healthiest in the state.
Thank you.
That's what the state uses, Shepherd's River, Cold Brook as the guidelines for trout habitat.
Really?
For reconstruction of brooks and stuff. That's why Trout Unlimited comes here to change its course.
They don't stop that, the state doesn't stop it.
No, that's natural brook habitat, trout habitat. One of, or two, Shepherd River, Cold Brook, and then one down in New Gloucester, the premier in the state.
So we want to keep that.
Yes,
We wanna
yeah.
keep that.
Keep that healthy river.
Brian, from your looking around town and your experience with other towns and so forth, what kind of shape do you think our culverts, I don't know culvert, I guess drainage which is a different.
Town needs a lot of drainage work done.
Yeah, that's an.
I mean, a lot of
Is that short term now or long term? It's still on the assessment.
long term. But you gotta also take into account, we only got 2 guys at Public Works.
Right.
One of them gets run around half his day just doing administrative stuff. So at least 1.5 guys to do the work of 4 men.
Right.
So you only get so much done by yourself.
Guess we're talking upsizing culverts too, because
Yeah, we
some
don't
of
have
them, so we're upsizing.
Pretty much by about 25%. So we're taking an 18 and putting in a 24 in its place. A 15 up to an 18 or a 10.
That seems like it made a difference on Dugway.
Yeah.
Because that road's getting washed out 3 times.
Well, Dugway's got a problem with springs boiling up through the middle of the road.
Oh.
All year, every year, you know, all the, it's just. Pure dough, water boils out of the ground all the time. My Frank's house, it boils out of the ground all the time.
There you go.
Some of the roads are cracked and hole there. Energy.
Hey, would dust control on the roads be part of anything? That's environmental hazard. Dusty roads.
I don't know.
Maybe not, yeah, maybe another stretch, but again, maybe there's other programs for. Yeah. Well, what about in the long term? Oh, did you have one more thing?
So I'm thinking the first one, communicating about what the town is already doing. I'm also thinking what you mentioned earlier, thinking about just communicating with the town about what they could do to be more safe, to be safer with fire danger and all of that. Like I'm thinking of some things I've heard or read about, even just educating people about not having trees so close to their house. You know, things like that.
Defensible space, yes.
Yeah, you know, things like
Yes.
that, that I don't think in general people know enough about,
There's,
but.
there's stuff out there the Maine Forest Service has. If I have any left or not about that, we get it from the Forest Service.
And we just need to get the word out for defensible space, that's hard to say.
That could be something where we could have like a community dinner focused on fire safety. Because I think people are getting a little bit nervous about the high winds, you know, the dry climate, you know, more fires, because we've had fires go through here before and we don't want that to happen again.
They fund the drone program. They fund the drone program for us.
We could use that.
So most of the stuff, like climate insulation and the buildings and stuff, that would be all upgrades, it wouldn't be new construction. I mean, if we were putting a building up, you wouldn't pay for the insulation for that.
I don't think so.
No, it'd have to be for all rehab, upgrading, okay.
We'll be having the fire station with the new ones, so they can help do that.
Well, cutting down trees.
Short term or long term? I
Across
was
the river.
thinking, and I know
Into
this
the river.
has been discussed about trends, but maybe having a town sell the compost bins to individuals. I bought one once years ago that some library or something was selling them. And I use mine on. Compost bins.
Does your transfer station have compost?
No, and that'll be another long term.
Yes, you know, but I think Freiburg tried doing that.
It shouldn't have to be, well, it shouldn't need to be cost effective. It needs to be break even.
There's something that took place with Freiburg that did not.
There's-
Yeah, Steve Nutting had, yes,
There's
Steve Nutting
two
had
ways
checked.
of doing compost.
What?
Bring a pile of leaves, leave it alone. And compost. You're not necessarily doing anything a whole lot to it.
Right.
Or you can add food waste to it. Now you need a permit from the state. And then you'd better pay attention to it. You'd better turn it every so often so it gets hot in certain areas or whatever. And that, if it's done properly,
in a community this size, I'd say you'd probably need another person assigned to the work area down there. Specifically to keep an eye on stuff like that.
I'm talking individual bits, families.
Yeah. Or, yeah, it's something maybe outside this meeting, because I do want to be mindful of time, but Norway has a compost contract that maybe you all would be interested for us. It's collected, but we can, I want to move us along, so we can get back to that. But, quick rapid fire, maybe we can do a round, of things. Yeah, what's long term important to address? Maybe we can just go right down the line. And if you don't have anything, you can say pass.
I'll pass it.
Pass.
I don't know whether this is long-term or whether this is the first thing that should be done, but obtaining the vulnerability assessment that you mentioned just seems like it would make a lot of sense. So I don't know where that belongs, but that belongs here.
Could be short term, doing an assessment, long term, implementing the recommendations.
Oh, I got lots. Assessing the riparian zones along Billy Brook and Shepherd's River. What riparian zone? Oh, the river feeds the dirt. Well, that's true. Addressing PFAS.
There's one. Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? Yes. And of course, the composting at the dump, at the transfer station. I know what Bill said, but put it down anyway.
Has anyone?
Oh, water card
Water testing.
for the rivers.
We have that.
Water testing.
Paying for it.
Not for the Shepherd. Not for the Shepherd River.
Not for the Shepherd River.
No?
Sackle River, at the bridge, in Brownfield, that's the only place.
Really?
Yeah, I used to do it.
What's that?
For Shepherd River.
No, I dump all my stuff in it, go down there.
Had George.
Now, as far as the PFAS is concerned, the DEP has already has a program. And they will, there's an individual, and I've spoken to him a few times, that is in charge of it. And he has told me in no uncertain terms, Brownfield has no issue with PFAS. And I just heard it a little while ago, there's a story that there's something lurking up there where the transfer station is. There was a time when there was some sort of stuff being disposed of, and it was checked and double checked and rechecked for years. They would come in, and there was 4 places, and they would test it. And then after a while, they said, there's no more things to be looked at. It's clean, it's fine, see you later. And we've been tested since then. There is no PFAS at the transfer station. Per the DEP. Now, maybe they don't know what they're talking about. But the guy that's in charge of all of that in the state of Maine says Brownfield is clean.
Well, all they used to spread was a septic out of people.
That is correct, yes.
We don't have any industry in this town, so we're not gonna have those heavy metals. So, but southern Maine, like down Old Orchard Sulphur, when I used to work with those guys, I used to run their sludge composting facility. That was full of everything you didn't want, plain and simple.
There were rather large tanks down there when I first got on the board of selectmen. Those tanks, after several years, were literally stood up, completely inside and out, would drive off, I guess, I would hope so. And I think it might have even been Frank Day, who was Public Works Director at the time, they literally cut them in like thirds and had trucks haul them out to Limerick or wherever and got paid for the metal or whatever. So there's nothing up there.
Would radon be? Nah.
Not this, yeah, not so much this program, but.
We want to keep moving along the line.
Yes.
She took all mine.
You gave them there. Oh. No.
Do you think there's any interest in this town for any kind of solar farming?
Or even rooftop,
Now they tried that trick and they tried twice and they voted out.
for rooftop.
Yeah, because it's they want to do it on the town garage, but they're concerned about anchoring to the roof and leaking as time goes by.
Maybe small ones.
So that was not tried twice.
It's like Waterford did a tractor, a single tractor, because tractors are
They
way
call
more
it the
efficient.
sun.
And so, yeah, over at their town garage, they have a tractor, so.
What is it, what is that?
It's a solar tracker, so it follows the sun throughout the day, instead of just being a fixed array.
And it stands, it's not on the roof?
It's not on the roof, it's just
freestanding?
I can't remember the stats on it, it's much more efficient at capturing sun.
And what were they using that that particular unit for?
That was at kind of the town complex, so it was covering their fire department and their town office, and
So it was large enough to be able to do.
yeah, I don't know if it's covering all of the power there, but
Yeah.
a good percentage.
I just.
We got one more long term
It's hard
for
to
you.
envision.
Changing the public perception on anything and everything we try to do here. Doesn't matter what it is, just changing the public perception. To a more positive vibe.
Yeah. That's really important.
You know, I think we should take that one and put it number one for all of those sheets.
For public perception.
That's
your starting point.
That is it. That's
You're
the whole
actually
ballgame right there.
moving along wonderfully to the next thing, which is kind of prioritizing.
That's the proverbial stick in the spokes.
I'll put a
of
little
this town.
star next to it.
Yeah, so I do want to say we're at time here, 3 minutes past. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. We're going to have another meeting to get into specific projects, but I just want to open the floor, if there's anything, specific projects, actions you'd like to see the town take, or just general comments that you haven't had a chance to bring up in this meeting. I wanted to open the space for any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with.
Oh, I think we did pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
At first, we were all just sitting here like, oh.
Yeah, so if anything comes up afterwards, there's a few kind of final steps here. If we have, so in your folders, there's that sheet, you'll have resilience@ecologybasedeconomy.org. You can reach out to us. You can also call us at 207-739-2101 with any ideas that come up or follow-up questions. We also, if you filled out the sign-in sheet, which I don't actually know where that, oh, awesome. If you left your email, you will be receiving a summary with everything we discussed here tonight. So we'll be sending that out. We'll also try and get that posted online on the website, so people who weren't able to be here can see that. You're also welcome to share it and invite friends, invite more people to the next meeting. People don't need to have attended this one to join us at the next one, where we'll be getting more into that specific project identification. But yeah, there will also be some prompts in that summary document if someone wanted to share more feedback on what we discussed here tonight.
Maybe Terry, you could put in the next newsletter that, that the you know, our committee would be able to. If they don't feel like they wanna contact directly,
Right. Oh,
they
that's
could contact somebody on the committee, and we could contact, or maybe we even have the answer.
Okay, so our next meeting is May 18th.
No.
No, May
20th.
May 20th.
For the workshop.
So we won't have another newsletter before then, but we can put in the newsletter that they can contact us about what's on the website and all that. Okay.
Just when they send us that something there. Just copy and put a bunch of papers in the library. And
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
Please join us for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think, I don't know who does the website.
Right, I was gonna say, she can put it on the Facebook page.
But also on the town website, there is kind of the latest news section now.
Right.
She could post it there, because you see that as soon as you go.
Right.
to the homepage.
Understood.
Well, yeah.
Is that Tuesday as well?
Yes. Yeah.
But there's not a planning board meeting that night.
Oh, God.
We might have to share.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have told. We should have.
Yeah, this is the planning board. We should sit on.
We're planning.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Everyone
very
for
much.
coming
Um, on the way out, if you would like to, if you don't have to, maybe we can pull these apart. We do have little dots. We call it dotocracy. If there's any of these ideas that you're like, we want this, the rise to the top, we want this included in whatever summary goes to the state, then you are welcome to take some dots and stick it on the ideas that resonate the most.
And there are 2 pages, so feel free to flip the paper. Oh, yes, that's my bad.
Thank you so much. I should have known better.
Yeah, she was.
You know,